My sister emptied my emergency surgery savings to pay for her bachelorette weekend. You'll be fine, you're always so dramatic. My mom rolled her eyes. I nodded, then quietly sent a message to her fiancé with screenshots of the receipt. Why are you freaking out? You don't even need the money right now, my sister Tessa said with a wave of her hand. I just stared at her. You emptied my entire savings account for your bachelorette weekend. It's not like you were dying, she shot back. You're always so over the top. Mom sipped her wine, gave me a look, and muttered, honestly, Nadine, you're being dramatic again. You're fine. I nodded silently. And later that night, I texted her fiancé Connor with screenshots of the transaction. Let me back up. I, Nadine, 38 female, have been dealing with chronic endometriosis since my late 20s. It's a condition that affects my daily life. Some days, I can't even get out of bed without pain slaughterers. After years of failed treatments and pushing through the discomfort, I finally saved up for a surgery that could offer some actual relief. My insurance wouldn't cover everything, so I needed about $7,200 out of pocket. That took me over a year of budgeting and careful planning to save. I'm single, I live alone, and I don't have anyone to fall back on financially. My mom is a retired elementary school teacher living on a modest pension, and my sister, Tessa, has always been more of the free spirit type. She's younger than me by 5 years and lives like every day is a music video, lavish, chaotic, but curated perfectly for Instagram. Tessa was the golden child growing up. Always the center of attention, always coddled, always protected. Our dad left when I was 12 and she was 7, and I think Mom poured everything she had into making sure Tessa didn't feel the loss. Meanwhile, I became the default adult in the house by the time I was a teenager. I put myself through college, worked full-time, and eventually landed a stable job at a local nonprofit in Rockville, Maryland. It's not glamorous work, but it's steady and meaningful. I like my quiet life. Tessa, on the other hand, has bounced between jobs. There was the photography studio phase, then the yoga instructor era, and now she runs a semi-successful home decor account on TikTok. She lives in a trendy part of Baltimore with more plants than furniture and relies heavily on my mom for occasional support, which is code for rent when she's behind. When she got engaged to Connor, I was honestly happy for her. He's a solid guy, the kind you can tell has a spreadsheet for everything. He works in logistics for a big shipping company and comes from a really kind, grounded family in Minneapolis. He loved Tessa's spontaneity and energy, but I always wondered if he noticed the cracks beneath the surface. I helped where I could. I proofread their wedding website. I helped coordinate RSVPs. I even volunteered to make place cards to save them a few $100. I never expected anything back. But I also didn't expect to be robbed blind. 2 weeks ago, I went to pay a pre-op bill and noticed my surgery savings account, every cent I'd managed to squirrel away, was empty. Gone. I felt physically sick. At first, I thought maybe there was a bank error or fraud. But when I looked closely, I saw a Venmo transfer I didn't recognize. It was over $6,800, sent in one large transaction. The note said, Bach Bash woman dancing medium dark skin tone fire let's GOOO. I called the bank immediately. They walked me through the steps and confirmed the transfer had been authenticated on my own device. That's when I remembered Tessa had borrowed my phone a few days earlier while we were out getting coffee. Said her battery died and she needed to confirm some hair appointment details. She must have transferred the money while I wasn't looking, probably had my Face ID unlock the app without realizing. She knew exactly which account to hit. I sat on that knowledge for an entire day, trying to calm down. I thought about going to the police. I thought about freezing all my accounts. But before any of that, I wanted to hear it from her directly. So I went to our mom's house the next evening. Tessa was already there, lounging on the couch with her feet tucked under her, drinking white wine and giggling over a bachelorette itinerary printed on pink cardstock. She was glowing, full of energy, and completely oblivious. I waited until my mom sat down, poured herself a glass, and they were both talking about how cute the matching swimsuits were going to look in Miami. Then I said, calmly, "Did you take money from my savings account?" Tessa blinked. Then laughed. "Oh my God, Nadine, don't be so dramatic. I borrowed it. You don't even need it yet." Mom's eyes narrowed. "What is this about?" "She took over $6,000 from my surgery savings." "She borrowed it," Mom snapped. "You act like she stole it." "She did. She used my phone without permission." Tessa rolled her eyes. "I was going to pay you back." "You're making a mountain out of a molehill." "God, you've always been like this." There it was again, like I was being unreasonable for expecting basic respect and boundaries. Mom shook her head. "It's not like it's the end of the world. You'll be fine." I said nothing more. Just nodded. I packed up my purse, went to the bathroom, and texted Connor. I sent the bank screenshots. I even attached a screen recording of my transaction history with the Venmo account ID and the note from the transfer. I didn't expect a response right away. But I felt lighter. 3 days passed. Then, late Friday night, Connor called. He said thank you for telling him. Said he was floored. Said Tessa admitted it but tried to spin it like I was cold and jealous and overreacting because I wasn't married and couldn't understand the pressure of planning a wedding. "She didn't even apologize," he said quietly. "She just made excuses." By Saturday, the rehearsal dinner was cancelled. I got a generic cancellation email from the venue, no explanation. Tessa went silent online. Mom called me and screamed into the phone that I had ruined her daughter's life. That I was vindictive and bitter. I hung up on her. I didn't go to the venue. I didn't go anywhere. That weekend, I stayed home and read a book cover to cover. No social media. No noise. Just silence and the occasional hum of the fridge. Then, Monday morning, the wedding was officially called off. Connor flew back to Minnesota. Tessa moved back in with Mom for a bit. The Instagram account went from colorful to black and white reflection quotes. She posted something like, "Sometimes the universe removes people from your life for your growth. Thank you for the lessons." The comments were full of sympathy. "You're so strong. Keep shining." No one knew what actually happened. No one except Connor. And me. I didn't reply to the Instagram story. I didn't correct anyone either. I don't care if strangers think I'm the villain. I care that I can sleep at night knowing I didn't let it slide. Knowing I didn't let her get away with stealing from me and laughing about it like it was a prank. After the wedding was called off, I tried to get back to my routine, but things were off. I was tense all the time. My stomach stayed in knots. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, Mom dismissing me, Tessa's casual cruelty. Not a single call from either of them to apologize, or even acknowledge what they'd done. Just a shift to me being the problem. And the weird part was, no one else in the family reached out. Not our aunts, not our cousins. I wondered if they even knew. Or maybe they only heard Tessa's version, that I'd hamper at her wedding out of spite. A few days after everything went public, my cousin Dana sent me a message. "Hey, not sure what happened, but Aunt Carolyn is really upset. She said you ruined Tessa's wedding? Are you okay?" I debated ignoring it. But I didn't want to let the story stay twisted. So I replied with the basics. That Tessa stole my surgery savings, admitted to it, and that when I brought it up, she brushed it off. That I told Connor, because I figured he deserved to know before signing legal documents with someone who treats people like that. Dana just replied, "Wow." And then, "Good for you, honestly. That's beyond messed up." That small response made me feel sane. Like I wasn't imagining the insanity of it all. Like I hadn't overreacted. I screenshotted that text and read it more than once when I started to doubt myself. About a week later, I ran into Mom at the Safeway. She was in the frozen aisle, looking at a bag of mixed vegetables like it had personally offended her. I would have turned and walked the other way, but she saw me first. "Nadine," she said curtly. "Hi," I said back, already bracing for a scene. She didn't yell. She just stood there and looked me over like she was taking stock of everything she resented. "She's not eating," she said. "Hasn't gotten out of bed in 2 days. You humiliated her. She stole from me. She was under stress. You just had to blow it up." I clenched my jaw. "You still don't see anything wrong with what she did?" "She said she was going to pay you back." "She never told me that. And she never even apologized." Mom gave me that look again, the one that says I'm exhausting, I'm too much, I'm never satisfied. She's given me that look since I was 15 and asking why Tessa got a ride to school every day and I had to take the bus. "She's your sister," she said. "You don't destroy family over money." I didn't respond. I just stepped around her cart and walked away. After that, things were quiet. There was no apology. No attempt to make amends. Tessa didn't call, didn't text. It was like I'd been officially excommunicated. Honestly, it was painful in ways I hadn't expected. Not the silence itself, I'd lived through plenty of that, but the confirmation that they had always seen me as the backup plan. The one who didn't need support because I could handle it. The one who could be pushed aside when inconvenient. And worse, they never imagined I'd stand up for myself. When I did, they didn't recognize me. That stung. I started going to therapy again, partly for help processing the betrayal and partly because the stress had triggered my pain again. My body holds trauma in strange, stubborn ways. I'd wake up clenching my jaw or realize I hadn't eaten a full meal in days. My surgeon warned me that stress could exacerbate inflammation, and sure enough, my symptoms were flaring up. But despite it all, I didn't regret what I did. Every now and then, I'd check Connor's social media, not obsessively, just occasionally, out of curiosity. His accounts had gone private, but his sister Ashley's hadn't. She posted photos from a cabin retreat, and in the corner of one, I saw him in the background, holding a dog and smiling. He looked relaxed. Lighter. I felt a strange relief for him. Not because he left my sister, but because maybe he avoided a lifetime of her doing things like this. Of being emotionally manipulated and financially drained and then told he was the problem for noticing. A few weeks after that, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address, just my name in Tessa's familiar loopy handwriting. Inside was a check. For $4,000. No note. No apology. No explanation. Just the check. My first instinct was to rip it up. But my second instinct, the part of me that's had to be pragmatic since childhood, said, this is still only part of what she owes. And it's something. I deposited it. No message came after. No follow-up. Just silence. And that was almost worse. Not because I wanted reconciliation, but because I knew she believed the money was the only thing that mattered. That she thought it could close the wound. It couldn't. The silence after the check didn't surprise me. I had spent my whole life waiting for Tessa to say sorry for things she never thought were wrong. She didn't apologize when she borrowed my car in college and returned it with a cracked bumper. She didn't say anything when she missed my 30th birthday dinner because something came up with this guy she was seeing. And now, even after she stole thousands of dollars from me and blew it on tequila shots and pool cabanas in Miami, she wasn't going to say the words. And maybe the worst part? Mom didn't even acknowledge the check had been sent. I assume Tessa told her. It's hard to imagine either of them keeping secrets from each other when it serves their interests, but I never got a follow-up. No, I'm glad she paid you back. Not even a passive-aggressive remark like, see, I told you she'd make it right. Just that aching, familiar quiet. Like I was a stranger. The check helped. Financially, at least. I was able to reschedule my surgery after having to push it back due to the sudden lack of funds. My doctor understood, and the new date gave me more time to prepare, both logistically and emotionally. But there was a grief in the aftermath that I wasn't ready for. Grief over realizing the family I had didn't see me. They never had. I'd spent years rationalizing the way Mom treated Tessa like a glass ornament and me like a doormat. She's the baby, I'd tell myself. Mom's just tired. You're older, you can handle more. But I couldn't unsee it anymore. I couldn't pretend that Mom's behavior wasn't part of the reason Tessa turned out the way she did. One afternoon, I got a text from our old neighbor, Mrs. Vega. She's in her 70s and still lives in the same house we grew up next to in Bethesda. She's always been sharp and gossipy in a gentle way, just enough to know everything without sounding malicious. Her message said, "Hi sweetheart. I just ran into your mother. She looked tired. Hope you girls are doing okay. Haven't seen you around." That was it. A simple, polite little note. And it made my stomach knot up all over again. Because I didn't know how to answer her. I didn't want to spill family drama on an elderly neighbor, but I didn't want to lie either. I hadn't been around because I wasn't welcome anymore. Because choosing to protect my savings, and my dignity, apparently made me a pariah. Instead of replying, I stared out my apartment window for a long time. The cherry blossoms in the courtyard were starting to fade. Spring was slowly giving way to summer. Everything looked calm, like nothing in the world had shifted. But I had. A week or so later, I went to the pharmacy to pick up some prescriptions related to my upcoming procedure. While I was waiting, I overheard a familiar voice 2 aisles over, talking animatedly about the wedding that almost happened. It was Tessa. I couldn't see her, she was on the other side of the store, but I could hear her loud and clear. She was telling someone, probably a friend, that everything blew up because my sister was jealous and couldn't stand to see me happy. Then she added, with a dramatic sigh, she even contacted Connor behind my back. Who does that? My face went hot. I felt a tightness in my chest that I hadn't felt in weeks. I ducked behind a shelf of cold medicine, like a child hiding during hide and seek. The thing is, I didn't care about her twisting the story. Not really. People like Tessa have to be victims. It's how they survive criticism. But hearing it, knowing how completely untrue it was, and how easily she could perform it like a monologue, it made something sink inside me. She wasn't just avoiding accountability. She'd rewritten the story entirely. And I realized in that moment that she always had. My whole life. She'd been the lovable mess, the quirky whirlwind, the girl who couldn't be tamed. But I knew the truth. She was careless. Entitled. And used to getting away with things because she was beautiful and charming and never challenged. When I left the pharmacy that day, I went home and did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled out an old photo album from the top of my closet. One of the big ones, with the sticky pages and plastic film. Inside were pictures from our childhood, birthdays, Christmas mornings, beach trips. And I stared at one photo in particular, me and Tessa at a pumpkin patch, maybe ages 12 and 7. I was holding her hand, pulling her away from a puddle she was about to step in. She was laughing. I looked serious. That picture told the story of our dynamic better than words ever could. Even then, I was the one managing her chaos. Even then, she was the one smiling as I carried the weight. I started journaling again. Therapy helped, but the journal was mine alone. No polite nods, no prompts, just me and the raw, ugly thoughts I didn't have the space to say out loud. I wrote about the guilt that clung to me, the part of me that still wanted Mom to call and say, "You were right." The ache of realizing she never would. I wrote about how hard it was to sit at work meetings and smile like everything was fine, even when my whole foundation had cracked. And I wrote about the quiet. The long, strange quiet of cutting ties with people you love who have no idea how deeply they've hurt you. Every now and then, someone from the old social circle would text me with a "what really happened" type of message. I'd ignore most of them. But occasionally, I'd reply with something short, like, "She stole thousands of dollars from me while I was saving for surgery. I asked her to take accountability, and she didn't. That's all there is to it." The reactions varied. Some said, "Wow, I didn't know that." Others didn't reply at all. A few, I'm sure, passed my message right back to her, giving her fresh fuel for her victim narrative. But I didn't care. I wasn't playing defense anymore. It was around late July when I finally had the surgery. Everything went well. I was off work for a few weeks, resting, healing. The pain had lessened, a weight lifted I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Physically, at least. Mentally, I was still unpacking things. Tessa hadn't reached out again. Mom hadn't either. And in a way, that became a blessing. The silence gave me space. And in that space, I started doing something small, but meaningful, reclaiming my story. One afternoon, about 6 weeks after the surgery, I was sitting at my desk, half working, half daydreaming, when I got a LinkedIn notification. Connor had updated his job title. I clicked it out of habit, not really expecting much, and saw that he'd launched a new logistics consultancy firm. It was legit: website, contact form, a few client testimonials. And there, on the About page, was his photo and a short bio. Underneath it was a name I hadn't expected to see: Ashley Mendez. His sister. Apparently she'd joined as a partner. I blinked, and then the wheels started turning. Because I remembered something. Ashley had run a small wellness event last year, a local lifestyle expo in Arlington, and she'd asked if I could help her find local vendors or handle basic email outreach. It never materialized back then, but we'd exchanged a few messages. She'd always been warm. So I emailed her. "Hi Ashley, hope you're doing well. I saw you're involved in Connor's new firm, congrats. I've been doing a lot of comms work with small nonprofits and logistics networks lately and just wanted to reach out in case there's ever room for freelance support. Also, I wanted to thank you for being kind when things fell apart. It meant a lot." She replied a few hours later. "Nadine, I'm so glad you reached out. We were literally just talking about needing someone to help organize our upcoming launch event in DC. I'll talk to Connor and loop you in." And just like that, the universe tilted slightly in my favor. Over the next month, I started working on event prep with Ashley. She was sharp, organized, and refreshingly drama-free. She looped me into logistics calls, introduced me to their early clients, and eventually brought me on to write content for their site and presentations. It was good work. Stable. And it paid well, better than anything I'd been doing at my nonprofit. After some thinking and lots of budgeting, I reduced my hours at my day job and shifted toward consulting part-time with their firm. It felt like something was finally aligning. But the real twist came during the event itself. It was held at a beautiful, glass-walled venue in Georgetown. Catered, full of professionals and media types. The kind of place Tessa used to dream about posting selfies in. I was behind the check-in table, name badge on, clipboard in hand, fully in my element. Halfway through the evening, I saw her. Tessa. Wearing a beige blazer dress combo, standing stiffly by the champagne wall, wide-eyed and unsure. Mom was with her, looking out of place and uncomfortable. A realtor friend of theirs must have dragged them along, not realizing who was behind the curtain, so to speak. For a moment, we locked eyes. Tessa's expression faltered. She recognized the event, the tone, the scale, and most importantly, my role in it. She saw me working with Ashley. Saw people nodding when I walked by, greeting me with familiarity. She saw my name on the printed itinerary. Nadine Salinas, Comms and Event Strategy. She saw that I'd landed exactly where she thought she belonged. I didn't say a word to her. Didn't approach. Didn't flinch. I turned, answered a question from a reporter, and kept working. That, more than any confrontation, was the moment. Not just for her, but for me. For once, I didn't need to explain myself. I didn't need to argue or cry or plead for fairness. The truth stood on its own, crystal clear under the soft event lights and between clinking glasses. Tessa didn't stay long. Maybe 20 minutes. She whispered something to Mom, who nodded once, and then they slipped out, unnoticed by most. But not by me. I watched them go. Then I went back to organizing the speech lineup. The next day, Ashley sent me a photo someone had snapped during the event, me standing at the podium, half laughing at something one of the speakers said, holding a folder full of notes. "I love this one," she wrote. "You look like a boss." For the first time in months, I agreed. A week later, I got a letter in the mail from a local attorney's office. It was from Tessa. Inside was a typed apology. Not handwritten, not emotional. More like someone had told her to make it right for appearance's sake. She wrote that she regretted what happened, that she was in a bad place emotionally, that she acted without thinking. There was a second check enclosed, for the remaining $3,200 she owed me. Again, no heartfelt words. No attempt at reconciliation. Just business. And honestly, that was fine with me. I deposited it. And I moved on. I didn't post about it. I didn't share the letter. I didn't need to. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was standing tall in a room where I belonged and watching the person who tried to break me realize she couldn't. Because I had healed. Because I had built something of my own. And because some endings don't need fire, they just need closure.